So till now, in the session 21 of Java and Wave, we know that how this program executes. We know that whenever we create an object of type first with string as its type argument, then t becomes string. But if t is string and s is a reference variable of type string, then we should able to call the method length by using the reference variable s. Can we do this? Because the method length is a non-static public method of string class in Java. So can we call s.length? Let's try it and see if we can do it or not. Open first.java, and this is the same code as we have seen. Open use.java, and this is the same code as we have seen. Try to compile these two codes, Java C, first.java, and use.java. Compiles fine, now run it. Java use. It executes fine and printing the expected output. But let's change something in the code. Just write here s dot length. Right here s dot length. Try to compile these two codes, Java C, first.java, and use.java. The compiler throws an error saying that cannot find symbol. The symbol is method length. The variable s of type t. T is a type variable, and it is saying that t extends object declared in class first. That means t is not the string. But if t is object, then why we cannot call the method setS by using integer as its argument? Because t is object and we can store anything in a reference variable of type object. Then why we cannot pass 10 as the actual argument of the method setS? This is the question. Who decides the t strictly to accept a reference of type string? Namaste everyone, I am Gyan and you are watching the session 21 of Java and Wave, Generics in Java. In this video, we will learn the internal working of generics. In this video, we will learn how actually generic classes work. The type parameter t of a generic class extends java.lang.object. The variable s becomes a reference to java.lang.object. So we can assign a reference to any Java object in s. But the question is, who stops us doing it? This is the first.java, and after compilation, the first.class becomes like this. The variable s becomes a reference variable of type object, which can store any object reference. Let's see the roles of compiler and JVM while treating a generic class. So we have this statement, first integer, f is equal to new first integer. The statement first needs to be compiled. When the compiler compiles this statement, then the compiler thinks to convert the type variable, means the type parameter t, to java.lang.object type and make the variable s as a reference variable of type java.lang.object. But the compiler must have to take care that by using the reference variable f, no reference should be stored in s other than the integer or its child classes. That means if in your code something is written which can make the variable s to store any object reference other than the integer or the children of the integer, then in that case the compiler will throw a compile time error. After doing it, the compiler sends this statement to the JVM. JVM never know that about the generic classes. The generic classes are just a compile time issue. So after looking at this statement, the JVM thinks that the object of type first, whose reference is stored in the reference variable f of type first, have only one data member, that is s, as we already have seen in the previous example, which is reference to java.lang.object. That means I can store any reference in it. The JVM never knows about the generic classes. After that, the compiler gets another statement, set s12. Of course, the compiler gets these two statements in a single file. Then after, the compiler creates a .class file But we are taking these two statements one by one just to make our understanding more clear. So the compiler gets this statement. The compiler thinks that, okay, value going to be stored in the variable of type t, that is the variable s, is 12. 12 is an integer. Include it in the bytecode and let it go to the JVM. So this statement in the bytecode will go to the JVM. Then the JVM thinks 12 is of type integer. Let's store the reference of this object in the reference variable s, which is a reference of type java.lang.object. Of course, for the JVM, s is the reference variable of type object, which can store any object reference. Therefore, the JVM will store the reference variable of integer 12. Now the another statement comes to the compiler is set s is equal to hello. The compiler gets this statement set s is equal to hello by looking at this statement set s with hello as the actual argument. The compiler thinks that, okay, the value going to be stored in the variable of type t is hello. Hello is a string. I cannot include it in the bytecode and let it send to the JVM. I cannot do it. So let's generate a compiler error. Therefore, looking at this statement, the compiler will generate an error. So as you can see in this example, the generic classes is a compile time issue, not a runtime issue. Compiler acts like a filter, means what to include in the bytecode and what not to include is decided by the compiler. Let's see another example. The programmer creates a code, first use f is equal to new first use and opening and closing a small bracket. So we are creating a first object with use as type argument. The programmer sends this statement to the compiler. Compiler thinks that convert the type t in java.lang.object type and make the variable s as a reference variable of type java.lang.object. But the compiler must have to take care that by using the reference variable f, no reference should be stored in s other than the class use or children of the class use. So that is to be taken care by the compiler. After that, the compiler creates a simplified code for this one and sends this code to the JVM. After looking at this statement, the JVM thinks that the object of type first, whose reference is stored in the reference variable f of type first, have only one data member, which is reference of java.lang.object. That means I can store any reference in the reference variable s because the JVM is not in the known of use of generic classes. Generic classes is just matter of compiler. After that, the second statement written by the programmer is set as new use. Then the compiler looking at this statement thinks that, okay, value going to be stored in the variable of type t, that is the reference variable s, is object of use, object of class use. So include it in the bytecode and let it go to the JVM. Therefore, the compiler sends this statement to the JVM. After that, the JVM thinks that it is object of class use. Let's store reference of this object in variable s. So of course, for the JVM, the variable s is a reference variable of type object. Therefore, any reference can be stored in the reference variable of type object. After that, the programmer sends another statement to the compiler set as hello. But looking at this statement, the compiler thinks that, okay, the value going to be stored in variable of type t is hello. But hello is a string and I cannot include it in bytecode and let it send to the JVM. I cannot do that. Therefore, the compiler will throw a compile time error. This is the third case and more interesting case. First is a generic class. But while creating a new object of type first, programmer is not defining the type argument. The programmer has just created an object of type first without using any type argument. So the programmer sends this statement to the compiler. By looking at this statement, the compiler thinks that convert the type variable t, that means the type argument t, in java.lang.object type and make the variable s as a reference variable of type java.lang.object. Means compiler itself will make the variable s of type java.lang.object and t will be converted to the class object. I am not responsible for checking the data type being passed in the variable s. Because if you do not create an object of type first by using type argument, then the compiler will not care about the type of the variable which we are going to be stored into the reference variable s of type t. Therefore, the compiler sends the same statement to the JVM. Of course, looking at this statement, the JVM thinks that so the object f of type first have been only one data member, that is the variable s, which is a reference variable of type object, means I can store any reference in the reference variable s. After that, the programmer selects another statement, set s with 12 as its argument, and sends it to the compiler. By looking at this statement, the compiler thinks that, okay, the value going to be stored in the variable of type t is 12. 12 is an integer, but I do not care about it. I do not care about the type. Include it in the bytecode and pass it to the JVM. So the compiler does not care about what the value we are passing as an actual argument to the method setS and include it in the bytecode. After looking at this statement, the JVM thinks as 12 is of type integer. Let's store the reference variable of this object, of this integer object, in the variable s, which is a reference variable of type object. Means s is a reference variable of type object in the class first, and the JVM will store the reference of the integer 12 into the reference variable s. The second statement written by the programmer is set s with hello as its actual argument. After looking at this statement, the compiler thinks that, okay, value going to be stored in the variable of type t, that is the reference variable s, is hello. Hello is a string, but I don't care about the type. I don't care about the type of s. So I will include it in the bytecode and pass it to the JVM. Therefore, the compiler include this statement also in the bytecode and pass it to the JVM. After looking at this statement in the bytecode, the JVM thinks that hello is of type string. Let's store the reference of the string object hello in the variable s, because the variable s is a reference variable of type java.lang.object. So if you do not use any type argument while defining an object of type first, then the compiler will not care about the data type of t and will pass everything to be stored in the reference variable s of type t. This is the class use. The class first is same as the previous one. We have changed something in the class use. The class use gets a toString method which returns IAMUse. Then the class use has the method main. In the method main, we are creating a reference variable of type first without having a type argument. In this case, we can pass hello to the set s, we can pass 10 to the set s, and we can pass new use to the set s. We can store the references of all types of Java objects in the reference variable s. So if we are not using the type argument while object creation of type first, we can pass all three values simultaneously, means string, integer, use, and other objects also, not only three. But compilation occurs with a warning. The warning is that use.java uses unchecked or unsafe operation. Note that since by default t extends object, here even if we are writing as t extends object, but you can consider t as similar to the object. Means a reference variable of type t can store a reference of any Java object. So since by default t extends object, so even after not passing type argument, we can store various references in s, as s is the object reference variable. So the reference variable of type t, that is the variable s, can store reference to any object. That's why we are able to call corresponding overridden toString method of various types by printing the variable s. To understand the meaning of this last statement, let's consider the object class. The object class has various methods, including the toString method. The toString method is overridden in the class string, in the class integer, and in the class use. As you can see, we have overridden the toString method of the class object in the class use. When you call first.setS with hello as its argument, then the reference of the hello gets stored into the reference variable s. And when you print the reference variable s of type object, it will call the toString method. But whose toString method? The toString method of the class object or the toString method of the class string. Because s is a reference variable of type object. We know that the rule of overriding. I mean, when a method is present in the base class and overridden by the derived class, and we have a reference variable of type base class which actually stores the reference of type derived class. Here, the s is the reference variable of type object which actually stores the reference of type string. So when we call the toString method, the reference variable of the base class which actually stores the reference of the derived class, then the toString method of the derived class will be called, not of the base class. So when you call here s.toString, then the toString method of the class string will be called. Similarly, for the method call of setS by using useObject as its actual argument, the variable s will store the reference variable of object use. And when we call the getS method, then it will execute the toString method of the class use. But whenever a base class reference stores a derived class reference, then by using the base class reference, we cannot call a method which was specific to the derived class. That we cannot do. Overridden method we can call, and in that case, the derived class implementation will be executed. But if a method is not at all present in the base class, it was only present in the derived class, and by using the base class reference, you are calling that derived class method, then you will be not able to call that derived class method by using the base class reference. That's why we cannot call s.length. That will throw an error. So before we continue on this example, let's try one experiment with previous example. We know that we cannot call the method length of the class string. But let's open first.java once again, and instead of calling the length method, let's call a method which was present in the class object and has been overridden by the class string. And one of the method is toString. Printing here just s also calls toString method, but let me call the toString method s.toString. Compile it, Java C, first.java, use.java, compiles fine. Now execute it, and it executes fine. Now coming to this example. So first, let's execute this code, because here we have created an object of type first without any type argument. Open first.java, and this is the same code as we have seen. Open use.java, and this is the same code we have seen. We are not creating an object by using type argument. So we can store the reference variables of all the Java objects in the variable s of type t. Now compile these two codes. Java C, first.java, use.java, compiles fine with a warning. Uses unchecked or unsafe operations. Now execute this code. Java use. It executes fine and printing the expected output. Here I have compiled the two Java codes with XLINT option, which shows the warnings in the detail. It is saying that raw types found. That means when you create an object of generic class without any type argument, then we can say that we have raw types for that generic class. And the compiler is not checking the value to be stored into the variable of type parameter. These are the text statements which we already have seen till now in this video. We just saw the use of object creation using type argument as this one. We have seen it. Having string type argument in object creation, programmer just says to compiler to check for only string or its direct or indirect children to be referenced by the variable of type t. That is the reference variable s here. S is of type t. We know that in the class first, S is of type T. Here compiler acts like a filter which pass only data type or direct or indirect child object of the data type to given as type argument. Here string means only string or children of the string can be passed as the value of S. This is only checked by the compiler. For JVM, S is a reference variable of type java.lang.object. If we are creating a generic class object in non-generic way, that is without type argument, which we already have seen in the previous slide, then this type of object is called raw type object of the generic class. Compiler generates warning of raw type objects. Calls to method using a raw type objects are called unchecked calls because compiler does not check the type being passed with this call. The compiler generates warning for the unchecked method call if the called method is using the type variable t. So we already have compiled this code by using xlint. I have shown you such warnings. The raw type found is one warning and an unchecked call to the method of the generic class is also a warning. If you compile the same code by using xlint option colon unchecked like this, then the compiler will give us warnings about only unchecked calls. If a method in the generic class is not using a variable of type t, then call to that method does not cause any warning because that method is not using any type parameter in it. So call to the hello method will not cause any warning to be generated by the compiler. This is an interesting example. Here we are using the reflection API. If you don't know about the reflection API, then don't worry. I just want to show you something by using the reflection API so that you practically know the data type of S. Here rest of the codes are same as previous one. In the method getS, I will not explain you this code because if you know the reflection API, you will automatically come to know that what I am doing here. But if you do not know the reflection API, I do not want to bother you to know about the reflection API. Only I want to say you, we will print the name of the variable S, the type of the variable S, and the type of the object whose reference is stored into the reference variable S. Finally, we are calling the toString method by using the reference variable S. So let's see the output. The output will be 4, once for the string, second time for the integer, third time for the double, and fourth time for the class use. Let's see the output. The name of the variable is S, type is java.lang.object. The object whose reference is stored in the reference variable S is of type string. And when we call the toString method by the reference variable S, it prints hello. This is for the second time. The name of the variable is S, type of the variable is java.lang.object, and the type of the object whose reference is stored in the reference variable S is java.lang.integer. The value of S is 10. For the third time, the name of the variable is S, the type of the variable is java.lang.object, the type of the object whose reference is stored in the reference variable S is double, and this is the output of the toString method called by using reference variable S. And for the fourth time, the name of the reference variable is S, type is java.lang.object, the type of the object whose reference is stored in the reference variable S is use, and this is the output of the toString method called by the reference variable S. So hopefully you are getting the clarity. For the JVM, the type of the reference variable S is java.lang.object, which for the first time stores a reference of a string object, for the second time stores a reference of integer object, for the third time stores a reference of double object, and for the fourth time stores a reference of the use object. Notice that here we are creating a raw object of the class first. Let me execute this code practically. And while executing this code practically, we will use type argument to create a new object of type first. Open first.java, and this is the same code as we have seen. Open use.java, And this is the same code as we have seen. Try to compile these two codes. Java C, first.java, use.java. I do not want to compile with warning. Compiles fine. Now run it. Java use. It executes fine and printing the expected output. Let's change something in the code and use here a type argument string. Use here string. Use here string. Now try to compile this code. Oh, we need to change something more. We need to just remove all other statements accepting different values. And we should be able to print getS for the string, but not for anyone else. Now, try to compile these two codes. Java C, first.java, use.java, compiles fine, now execute it. Java use, executes fine and printing the same output. The name of the variable is s. The type is java.lang.object. The object whose reference is stored in the variable s is of type string, and the toString method called by the reference variable s returns hello. I already told you, do not consider the variable s of type argument. And if you consider the variable s of type integer and try to add something in it, then the compiler will throw an error. Bad operand types for binary operator plus. First type t, second type integer. T is not integer. Okay. While actually using s, you should not consider s of type argument. Otherwise, you will get such kind of errors. S is just an object used to call only object-specific methods which are overridden or not overridden by these type argument classes. Yes, you can typecast the S to integer and add something in it. We already have discussed the typecasting of reference variables or typecasting of objects in the previous video of Java and Web. The link of that video is given in the video description or in the I button. So you can typecast the reference variable s to integer and use it as an integer. Without typecasting it, you cannot use s as integer. Even more generally saying, you can typecast the reference variable s to any type argument. In the previous code, let's open use.java, and this is the same code as we have seen. We are using string as the type argument, and we are passing the string value hello as the actual argument of the method setS. Now open first.java, and in the first.java, I want to call the method length, and you know that I cannot call the method length. To do that, I first need to typecast the s to string. I think we need one more pair of small brackets. Now s becomes a string. Compile the codes, compiles fine, clear the screen. Now execute it. Java use. It executes fine and printing the expected output. Here we are doing the similar thing. At this time, the type argument used is use. But we know that internally t is object and the variable s is a reference variable of type object. So by using the s, we cannot call a method which is specific to the class use. But to call the method which is specific to the class use, we need to typecast the reference variable s to that class, to the class use, as we already have done with integer and with the string. And of course, you cannot store a specific object in S. You cannot store something in S. Compiler stops you from assigning anything directly in the variable of type T and saying that don't do this because first string means first with the type argument string and first with the type argument number both have same eraser. Means I have a use.java which has two objects. One object with the type argument string and other object having type argument number. For both the objects, the erasure of this class is same. Erasure means the bytecode which is going to be created because of these two objects are same. And if you assign something to the variable s, then it will be wrong for other kind of object of the class first. That means if you assign s with the value hello, then it will be wrong if you create an object of class first with integer as its type argument. So since for this class first, the erasure is same. Yes, objects can be different. The class files can be different, but erasures are same for this class first. Therefore, we cannot assign the variable s with a specific value. The character t or the word t is not compulsory for type parameter. We can pass any valid Java identifier in place of t. Following are equivalent. Like you can pass here t, you can pass here x, or you can pass here gyan. All are valid. So hopefully you got all my points. And now you know that how generic classes internally work in Java. That's all for this video, guys. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe my channel on YouTube, like my page on Facebook, and leave your valuable comments in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.